We are an operational air base. We fly the artifacts. So we have 7 planes that you can purchase flights on. The B-25, the B-17, and several others. The original base here was actually built for the British during World War II. We trained British pilots here before we were even in the war.
Greetings and salutations, viewers. A week back, I put up a short announcement of a free day at the museum. Judging from the fact that only 8 people viewed that video, I can safely assume that not many of you took advantage of this great opportunity. Nevertheless, Terry and I made it to the museum. The museum we chose was the Arizona Commemorative Air Force Museum in Mesa, Arizona. So, if you're brave enough to sit in front of the monitor for the next 15 minutes, enjoy! The Arizona Commemorative Air Force Museum in Mesa, Arizona is a small aerospace museum, but has a lot to offer visitors. One thing that I took away from this museum was the key role Arizona played in aviation. This walk leading into the museum is loaded with plaques of key military and civilian individuals that once called Arizona home.
So we are an operational air base. We fly the artifacts. So we have 7 planes that you can purchase flights on. The B-25, the B-17, and several others. The original base here was actually built for the British during World War II. We trained British pilots here before we were even in the war. So that's why it's called Falcon Field. It was their base, and we still keep track of those graduates and their families. So that was the origin of this position, this place here. And now we still fly those planes. C-47, we can get a flight on it, of course the workhorse of the war, and then we maintain, as you see behind us here, all the workings of the planes. We do our own maintenance, repairs, restoration work in-house. With rare occasion, we might need a specialist for some particular item, and then we go hire a company to do that. But we operate the artifacts. So in the other wing over there, you see the museum, all the static displays, but over here you see the actual operating airplanes.
So the ones in the other museum, those aren't airworthy?
Most of them are not. Some of them are. For example, the Zero that's over there currently, that one flies.
Okay.
Because it's actually a converted Texan. Out there on the floor, there's a blue plane. It's a 2-seat fighter trainer, and that they took one of those, which when the British were here, they would have called that a Harvard, and they took one of those and they remade it into the Zero.
Okay.
So that's what it is underneath.
So other than the C-47, there's a B-25?
B-25,
and
the B-17, which is still out on national tour.
Okay.
Should be back here probably in October.
And what other aircraft? You said there was 6?
Yeah, there's the also the Texan that they take flights on. Also a biplane called the Stearman.
Okay.
The C-45 can also you have flights on those. Kind of a mid-range bomber, and then of course the 17's the heavy bomber. Yeah. But as a matter of fact, the B-25 just got back from national tour. Okay. They fly as far east as the Mississippi, sometimes more, and on into Canada, and do tours, and they go out and have flights in those other communities as well. Okay. And the 17 won't be back till probably mid-October or so. But what we've tried to create is an actual chronological order in the exhibit, which we didn't have before.
Okay.
And when your puzzle pieces are this big, it's a little difficult. They only fit so many places.
Right.
So.
Yeah.
So basically, over on the far wall there, we start with World War I, which we just redid that exhibit this last year because of the 100th anniversary of the armistice of World War I. So we actually got a professor from ASU who teaches history over there that jumped in on that project. And these are some of the things that happen when you're working on stuff. So we're talking about how they were doing photography from the planes. While we're redoing that exhibit, somebody came in and donated 2 era-correct cameras that we didn't have in our collection prior to that. So it's like, of all the time for you to come in with these items, it's right now. So we're trying to standardize our approach and make it a little more readable. We've got an awful lot of text in some of these places. It's kind of hard to get into. But, so over there we start with the biplanes. I don't know how much you know about the engines, but in World War I, those are all rotary engines. okay, the engine spins.
Who sits up here?
A little difficult to fly. It really wants to go that way when you want to go that way. Then when they got in later, all these engines are radial. All the engine mass is stationary.
Okay.
And that changed the dynamics of flying the planes. So one of our new prized possessions is the triplane over here, which was just donated this year. Gentleman built this. There aren't any of the originals left, but this is modeled after similar plane to what the Red Baron would have flown, but he didn't fly only this plane. He flew several different types of planes. The colors on this one are after the colors of the #1 ace that flew nothing but this triplane.
Okay.
So his name was Joseph. I don't remember his first name. But so this was actually a flying plane before it came here. But as part of our collection, we're not going to fly it anymore. They're pretty fragile. Next you go to the Vega, which is kind of a mid-period, but it was one of the first ones. Good morning.
Hi, how you doing?
Okay. Good morning. Metal fuselage versus the fabrics. Okay. The top mount wings and a radial engine held altitude and speed records for a long time. Quite an advance in technology. No real war implication other than the technology. I mean, it didn't serve as such. But it's the transition time of where the technology went in between the two conflicts. And then, of course, you've got the ultimate in World War II and the Mustang over there. So, the other ones I was talking about, so like right now we're out of sync timeline-wise. So over in the corner there, you have a TBM, which is a carrier-based dive bomber. They did a lot of submarine pursuit missions. We actually have a gentleman here who served on one of those as a gunner right towards the end of the war. It is considered fully restored as a static exhibit, but it's not considered flight worthy. It was on display out on the East Coast, and what happened was the building that the museum was in got condemned. So they closed and they liquidated. The plane is so big, they had to build pockets on the side of the flatbed to truck it here, to put the wheels in. It's wide. It was wider than the flatbed.
Huh.
What kind of munitions does it use?
It carries bombs, and it has its defensive guns.
Okay.
But it's not a fighter per se, but it's an assault craft. So. And then you go from that, and then post-World War II, you would have this one, this beautiful one back here, which is its successor, bigger, heavier, more equipment, radar, da-da-da. So that's the Guardian. And that one's fully restored, again, for static exhibit and that flight.
What year would that have been? Like 1950s?
Late 40s, 50s,
Okay. And it'd still be a carrier-based aircraft.
primarily, folding wings.
Okay.
Didn't mean they didn't operate elsewhere,
Yeah.
but that was their primary assignment and location.
Okay.
That was, when it was retired, the largest prop-driven carrier aircraft. Very, very big for that era. And that's one of the things, unfortunately, 17's not here today, but if you look out there at the B-25 and you kind of think about it as a bomber, that's a pretty big plane. You notice it was kind of tucked back in the corner. We put the 17 in there, it takes up the rest of the hangar. It barely fits in the doors. And so this one here, the A-26, is similar to the B-25.
And that's the one, the gun sight we were looking at.
Yes.
That was over there. Yeah, okay.
Pellet periscope.
Yeah.
Yeah. This one also is fitted out as a corporate plane. And that's one of the things that I try and point out to people from the archive side, is that a lot of those private owners that bought these planes and found another use for them after the war is a big reason why we still have some of these. Because a lot of those that didn't get identified for alternate uses got scrapped. The B-24s, almost none of those left. They chopped them up left and right and scrapped them out. Yeah. So the 29s were the same way. The latest of its technology at the time, and yeah, but what are you going to do with it? so they scrapped them.
What about the F4 in the corner here?
The F4 is actually a Navy plane. It's on loan from Pima,
Okay.
as is the MiG-21 next to it.
Okay.
Both of those are here on basically permanent loan.
Okay.
So that's our connection to Pima, and we're still trying to build more of a working relationship with them. They have a lot on their plate.
Vietnam era.
Yes. So of course the Phantom was the ultimate do-everything plane. And as you know, later on, shortly after the F4 prime time is when they started breaking out into the specialties, where they did the 14, the 15, the 16, you know. We want this mission, we want this mission. That one was, it went and did everything.
Because the Air Force flew those, the Navy, the Marine Corps, everyone flew them.
Pretty much. As far as I know. Out of the timeline, right behind us there, is the Korean era MiG-15. So that one is still being restored, and that's why it's out of the timeline. It should be sitting back here, but we've been working on it. What we don't have that we're looking for right now is an F-86, which would have been our counterpart to the 15. So we've got to search out for one of those.
Doesn't Pima have one of those?
Yeah, but they probably won't let us have it. But we're talking.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not readily available, and most of them are for sale and pretty pricey. So I personally, we had talked about this at some point. There were variations on the theme of a lot of these planes with our allies. Like there's a Canadian version of the F-86, which with our British connection and Canadian connection currently would be kind of nice. I mean, okay, yeah, everybody's got a U.S. F-86, but do you have a Canadian F-86?
Need some more help? How about a Black Hawk? They were all named after Indian tribes as a tribute to the Indian tribe. Okay? This one is an Iroquois. But when they started making the Huey, they made the Huey 1, the Huey 1B. When they made the Huey 1B in 1956, they used this type of helicopter to pick up people that were injured, and the helicopter did so fantastic in flight that they said, we could use this for a lot more things. And they made a gunship out of it, then they made a workhorse out of it, and it was used in Vietnam. Bell Helicopter made 16,000 of these helicopters during Vietnam and after. 7,000 went to Vietnam, 2,500 were destroyed. So if you were a helicopter pilot, you didn't have great odds starting out.
The museum doesn't have a large selection of aircraft on display, but they are one of the most rare museums that allow you to purchase flights on some warbirds that are still airworthy. This museum also has ample aviation-related exhibits, like this Link flight simulator, also known as the Blue Box. Created in 1934, it helped to train pilots up to the 1950s. Take your time and walk the cabinets. There is a lot of information to glean, and don't be afraid to ask museum staff questions. All the staff we met were always willing to assist us. That's about all. If you liked this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up and leave a comment down below. If you're not subscribed already, hit that red button. And remember to hit the bell icon to be notified when our next video is released. Until next time.